Hello, Archie Dunlop here with Talking Astrology with Archie. And in this video, I want to have a look at the week starting on Monday, August the 19th, 2024. I think this is going to be a fairly brief video, comparatively speaking. I just want to look at what's happening this week. And the problem is this week that so much of the action is concentrated on the beginning of a week. Monday is an incredibly hectic day. And so when I do my video, which simply just covers Monday the 19th, I'll be looking at all of this, and I didn't really want to repeat myself. So I'm not going to go on and on and on about the events on Monday. And, I'll be looking at a few people and situations that might link with what's happening on Monday. I look at the horoscope again of Britain's Deputy Prime Minister, Rayner. I think she might be impacted by the full moon on Monday. Olaf Scholz, he always seems to come up. Nothing ever seems to happen to him, but still I notice something might be happening to him. On the basis of Monday's events. Now, that white globe is actually, it's not the full moon, it's actually the planet Uranus. And of course, there's a map of Kursk. I mean, that's the town of Kursk, but not the region of Kursk. But it's just to emphasize the fact that I will be talking a little bit about the Kursk offensive and some of the disturbing parallels between the Ukraine's Kursk offensive now and the Second World War that I do think I need to mention. So, having looked at the astrological situation this week with a focus on Monday and looking at a few people who might be impacted by it, another person is Germany's Foreign Minister, Annalena Baerbock. We haven't heard too much about her, but maybe she's going to be impacted by it. We'll see. And having done that, I'm going to look at the I Ching. And just remember, when I do the I Ching, you don't have to watch it. If you don't want your I Ching done, you don't want to need to cast the oracle for your week ahead, you don't have to watch it because it only applies to people who watch the I Ching section of the video. And of course, that I Ching section will be divided into 4 sections: general, money, career, and relationships. Okay, so let's look at the week ahead. Just a reminder that if you enjoy this video, I would be really happy if you were to like it. It's pretty easy. I think you just press a button. And if you're not subscribed, I'd be super happy if you were to subscribe. It doesn't cost you anything, but it does make a big difference to the channel. Okay, so let's have a look at the positions of the planets at the beginning of the week. So this is the chart for the beginning of the week, midnight, Monday, August the 19th. And what we see is this full moon starting to form. That very much dominates the week, this full moon on Monday. This full moon, which is at around 27 Aquarius on Monday, and it is square Uranus. And, we have so much going on Monday. We've got a conjunction between the Sun and Mercury. I mean, arguably, Mercury is at its very weakest with this conjunction, although you could argue that it's a Cazimi conjunction because, when Mercury is exactly conjunct the Sun, there is a theory that at the point of exactitude, when it's 17 arc minutes away from the conjunction to Mercury, it somehow benefits. The Sun and the Mercury are on exactly the same wavelength, and the Mercury no longer gets burnt by the Sun. I have my doubts, though. I think Sun conjunct Mercury, with Mercury being retrograde, I don't think Mercury is in great shape, even though it is in Virgo, and I'm thinking that that's not a great time to be starting the Democratic National Convention, which of course starts on Monday. So there can be. Sorry, did I just say Mercury's in Virgo? Sorry, Mercury's not in Virgo, is it? Mercury's in Leo. So this conjunction between the Sun and Mercury. Let me go over that again. Sun Mercury conjunction in Leo, and Mercury is weakened by the fact that it is conjunct with Sun, and Mercury is of course retrograde. And of course Mercury is also square Uranus, so Mercury is under a lot of pressure. Are people going to be able to think straight on Monday? Are we going to be able to think straight on Monday? Plus the fact that we've got Venus opposition Saturn. There you go, Venus opposition Saturn on Monday. Not great for relationships. We may feel that we are somewhat separate from the rest of the world, and it may at the same time be difficult to be sort of emotionally fluent, to really be able to express our feelings particularly well. And Sun is square Uranus. Sun square Uranus is often about sort of mishaps, things going wrong, the unexpected. Plus we've got Jupiter square Saturn. This is a major event, Jupiter square Saturn, which is not just about the day. It's a key point in the Jupiter Saturn cycle, and I talked about the Jupiter Saturn cycle a day or two ago, and it is perhaps where the Jupiter Saturn conjunction, which took place at the end of 2020, when that cycle starts to go into crisis. The crisis needn't go on for too long, but still we do have this Jupiter square Saturn, and everything comes together on Monday. I'm kind of a bit worried about Monday. What really worries me about Monday? I'm worried that nothing happens because there's so much going on. You would absolutely expect something to happen on Monday. I mean, everything. Sun conjunct Mercury, Venus square Jupiter, Venus opposition Saturn, Sun square Uranus, full moon, Jupiter square Saturn. You would absolutely expect Monday to be a really hectic day and there to be events. Any day in the year you'd expect it. It, I'm sure, is the most astrologically packed day of the year. It must be. And it would be so disappointing if nothing were to happen. And knowing my luck, well, no, we don't really want anything bad to happen, do we? But still, it's an extremely busy day. And then looking at stuff happening later in the week, it's all a bit of an anticlimax. Even Friday the 13th, is that Friday the 23rd. Friday the 23rd of August, we got Venus square Mars. So Venus in Virgo squares Mars in Gemini. Venus square Mars is an aspect, could be about relationships, about two people that perhaps don't entirely get on with each other. Venus is, of course, the planet of female sexuality, Mars, the planet of male sexuality. But, there is a sexual tension, I suppose, to that Venus square Mars, which may be felt in some quarters, but it may be a situation where some of us are attractive. Some of us are attractive in some quarters. With Venus square Mars, it's often about an attraction that is very particular. Some people find someone attractive, other people don't find someone attractive. It depends. So attractiveness and perhaps repulsion a little bit could be two features of that Venus square Mars. And I suppose you've got Venus, which represents balance and aesthetics. Venus in Virgo likes things to be done in a particular way. Very picky in terms of physical details, maybe in terms of what someone looks like, perhaps blemishes, But square Mars, the things someone says might sound gross. For example, that might be one way it works out. But still, Venus square Mars does indicate a certain amount of sexual tension, I suppose, and that just might be around in the world around us. And then Saturday the 24th, Mercury sextile Mars. It's a nice aspect, Mercury sextile Mars. It allows us to express ourselves in quite a vibrant and very full way. People will take notice of us, and if it's something we're annoyed about, we can talk about it, we can discuss it, but in quite a reasonable and civilized kind of way. So I really just must emphasize that the focus is so much on the beginning of a week on that Monday. It's quite overwhelming. Now, let me just turn to a few people who might be impacted by ongoing events. Okay, let's start with Britain's Deputy Prime Minister, Angela Rayner. I've talked to her about her relatively recently, so I don't have a time of birth for Angela Rayner. She seems to be quite an impulsive woman. She says what's on her mind. I think that she's been somewhat excluded by the corridors of power. I suppose Keir Starmer, he wants a sort of his nice slick operation, which of course is not really working very well, as we already know. And she's perhaps seen as something of a loose cannon. I mean, she's very working class. She's teenage mother. She's worked as a carer, and she says what she thinks. I suppose she has a certain genuineness to her in that sense, and she's got her Mars at 26 Leo. So at the moment, she has got Uranus square her Mars, and the full moon is going to be right on her Mars, and the what else? That's the main thing. Of course, we've got the Sun conjunct Mercury is going to be on her Mars, so she might be under a lot of pressure, and she might sort of maybe lash out if something annoys her, and her Mars may be the men in her life. Okay, that might be about her personal life, but it just could be about male politicians, and male politicians just trying to shut her up, perhaps. And actually, if you look at Angela Rayner's chart, her Mars, she's got Mars square Uranus in her chart anyway. Look, she's got Mars square Uranus, and so she's quite a fiery person anyway. I mean, as far as I can see, Angela Rayner is just pure Aries. I know she's only got the Sun in Aries, but she just seems to be archetypal Aries. I don't know if you're not in the UK or you don't know about the UK. Maybe you've no interest in Angela Rayner, but it does seem that her chart is really hit by the events on Monday, and she could be under pressure. She could be accident prone, and look, it's not just her. She's got the Mars conjunct the North Node and square Uranus on the South Node. So, I mean, she needs to watch how she goes. I mean, I suppose she could have an accident, but I would have thought it's more likely that Angela Rayner's impulsiveness could perhaps get her into trouble, but she will be under pressure. And I suppose I sort of feel a bit of sympathy with her, having, I suppose, someone who maybe is quite genuine. Whatever you think of her policies, that she is quite genuine. She says what's on her mind, and it just may be a difficult time for her. And she does have to be careful. But it may be all about her private life, maybe nothing to do with her public life. But she's a politician I think we do have to watch next week. Someone else would be Olaf Scholz, the German chancellor. But I'm not talking about his natal chart. I'm talking about the chart for when he became Chancellor of Germany, December the 8th, 2021. I don't know what time exactly. I think I've gone for noon. So in Berlin, Germany. And so this chart says something about his time as Chancellor. And of course, he became Chancellor on December the 8th, 2021. And 2 months later, just over 2 months later, the Russians invaded Ukraine. So that's really a lot about what his chancellorship is about. And here you have Mars in Scorpio, 26 Scorpio, square Jupiter in Aquarius. And I suppose you could say Mars square Jupiter is about having to put a lot of effort into defense, armaments, sending stuff to Ukraine, being aggressive towards Russia. And it could be quite difficult, could be a bit over the top. I know it looks as if Jupiter is on the ascendant. Maybe it is. Maybe he did become Chancellor at midday, but I wouldn't take that ascendant too seriously. So this full moon is at 27 Aquarius on Monday, so it hits his Jupiter. Plus, he's got Uranus opposition his Mars, and he's going to have. Obviously, it's not just a full moon. You've got the Sun conjunct Mercury, which is opposition his Jupiter. So this does affect his chancellorship in quite a big way. Perhaps his administration, and so we can perhaps expect things to be going on here, how he considers what's going on in Russia, and also what's happening in German politics. Maybe he may be reconsidering his position again, but I don't know. There have been times when I thought he might be reconsidering his position as Chancellor in the past, but he's still in the job. But the question perhaps of armaments and what armaments you give to Ukraine may be an important issue for him. Now, another person who doesn't seem to be in the news so much, maybe she's fallen out of favour and people are trying to keep her away from the limelight in Germany, and that is the German Foreign Minister, Annalena Baerbock. So here's Annalena Baerbock. Don't have a time of birth for Annalena Baerbock. And she has got her Uranus at 31 Scorpio. Now, normally I wouldn't really look too much at Uranus. I wouldn't look too hard at Uranus just in isolation, because it is a transpersonal planet. But on the other hand, Annalena Baerbock is a senior politician, and I suppose if you're a senior politician, you do start to sort of link with the collective, and so when your Uranus gets impacted, you might really start to feel it. And so she has got her Uranus opposition Uranus. So, I suppose she's, how old is she? She's going to be 44 next birthday. So I suppose you could say Uranus opposition Uranus is sort of early middle age. So it is one of those markers of time, Uranus opposition Uranus. She's perhaps not a young woman anymore. She is middle-aged, and even if it's early middle age, and so perhaps the passing of time for her on a personal level, Uranus opposition Uranus, but it also emphasizes what her Uranus is all about. And of course, it's not just that she's got Uranus at 27 Scorpio, she's got Venus at 26 Scorpio. See, she's a Venus-Uranus person. Again, I don't know what that says about her private life, but it also says about her as foreign minister. Do you want a foreign minister who has Venus conjunct Uranus? I know that her behaviour has often been quite jarring in the things she's said, and she's made comments like saying that Germany is at war with Russia, and she's I suppose she's a Sagittarius, and she says things without really thinking them through, talking about what really struck me was when she talked about some vision of greater Europe from Luhansk to Lisbon. I mean, that was Luhansk, of course, is the capital of Luhansk, which is part, part of Donetsk, which is Luhansk, is largely controlled by Russia. According to the Russians, it is part of Russia. Obviously, that's not recognized by the rest of the world, but to having such a kind of a vision from Luhansk to Lisbon, that just does remind one of some Nazi fantasy, the kind of thing, talking about all of the Europe that is under Nazi control, these great boasts, those radio broadcasts, where they'd have it in sort of Achtung Stalingrad, Achtung Paris, Achtung whatever, this idea that you've got this greater German Reich, and she talks about from the European Union, from Lisbon to Luhansk. It just doesn't seem a very sensible thing to say. But anyway, her Venus-Uranus conjunction, and if you can throw in Black Moon Lilith if you want. She's got Venus-Uranus Black Moon Lilith. That is quite nasty, and this rather nasty aspect of her chart is being impacted by the full moon and by Uranus's opposition, this complex here. And so I wonder what's going on in her life. I wonder what kind of policies she's making, what she's doing when she's looking at what's going on in Ukraine. And that brings us on to the subject of Ukraine, which I did want to talk about. And there are some disturbing parallels here. Firstly, if you look at the chart for the Kursk offensive, so what happened is that Kursk is part of Russia, and Ukrainians have gone into Kursk. People in the West are very excited about it. The general view seems to be that the aim of this incursion was to seize a nuclear power station near the actual town of Kursk, and the Ukrainians failed to do that. And so there is an argument that the operation has already failed, and that what's happening now is you've just got Ukrainian units to an extent just moving around western Russia, west of this part of the Kursk region, as a PR exercise. And so it is perhaps to an extent a bit of theatre, remembering that Zelensky is an actor, and it's a very expensive piece of theatre in terms of men and machinery. And so there is that kind of argument. It's sort of like some kind of military holiday with sort of echoes, with fatal results. But it sort of I don't know, I remember in the 70s there was this writer called Sven Hassel, and Sven Hassel would he would have his heroes would be an SS Panzer Division, and the SS Panzer Division's adventures in Europe. And Sven Hassel's, in the 70s, his books were very popular, particularly amongst teenage boys like myself. This was a time before videos and video games and YouTube. And how did you amuse yourself if you were a teenage boy? You didn't play video games. You read novels like Sven Hassel, which was sort of kind of glorifying the SS, and it was all great fun, I suppose. But if you're a teenage boy, I suppose you read that. I don't know. You probably never heard of Sven Hassel, but there is this kind of Sven Hassel feel, perhaps, to what's happening in Ukraine. There is now this photo video has now been shown of a Ukrainian soldier who was bullying an old Russian man, and this Ukrainian soldier was videoed. He was actually wearing a Nazi helmet with SS insignia on the side, and he was harassing a Russian man while wearing this SS helmet, and he was talking to him and abusing him in German. And so this is completely sick, and of course it tells us what the Ukrainians are really like. When Putin was talking about denazification, people laughed at him in the West, but I'm not convinced. I think he seems to have a point. Now, talking about the Kursk offensive, I don't know. I've been told this might have happened earlier. I mean, I've gone for 8 a.m., which at the time I've been told it might have been at half past 5 in the morning. I don't necessarily take the time too seriously, but Uranus at the time of this offensive was at around 2658 Taurus. So 84 years earlier, we had Operation Barbarossa. So Operation Barbarossa was, of course, when the Nazis, when the Germans, I suppose, when you say Nazis and Germans, when you say Nazis, you kind of imply that it's just a political party went in, that there was some aberration in Germany. But it was Germany. It wasn't just the Nazis. It was Germany. The Germans elected the Nazis, the Nazi party, and this is what Germany was doing. When Germany invaded Russia on June the 22nd. So here is Operation Barbarossa, June the 22nd, 1941. I've gone for about 3:15 a.m. I said it for Berlin. Of course, it didn't happen in Berlin. It happened when they crossed the River Bug. But the point is, Uranus at the time of the Operation Barbarossa was at 28 degrees 11 Taurus, and so there was a Moon-Uranus conjunction. There's Saturn at 23 Taurus. So, in fact, at the time of the Kursk offensive, Uranus was really pretty close to Uranus at the time of Operation Barbarossa. So in a sense, it was Operation Barbarossa's lunar return. Uranus return. So I think there is a real link there. And of course, the behavior of this Ukrainian soldier, and it was videoed, and the Ukrainians seemed to be, at least the unit he was with, seemed to be quite proud of him and proud of what he was doing. Back to the old glory days, and this is a reminder that in terms of Ukraine's past, it has quite a difficult past. I mean, as we know, a lot of concentration camp guards were Ukrainians, and they contribute. Ukrainian SS soldiers were involved in many sort of atrocities in Europe, and the Ukrainian division, the SS division, was the SS Galicia, which was formed on April the 28th, 1943. I've looked at this chart before, but it's interesting, perhaps, that the SS Galicia had its Mercury at 2734 Taurus. So when the SS Galicia regiment was formed on April 28, 1943, Mercury was at 2734 Taurus, and so it's perhaps about a memory of an image. I mean, Mercury is perhaps not really about the whole sort of regiment. It's about how the regiment communicates itself, what kind of image it likes to have. And so perhaps with Uranus crossing the SS Galicia's Mercury, it sort of brings things up. It sort of revitalizes that memory. And again, this goes back to that photograph of the Ukrainian soldier wearing the SS helmet. Of course, he might not have been Ukrainian. I suppose there are all sorts of people hanging on, mercenaries involved with in Ukrainian troops, in the Ukrainian army. But there is a certain sort of link there. And I suppose the sort of SS Galicia as being, the memory of SS Galicia is perhaps being stirred by this incursion into Kursk, into the Kursk region. Okay, so that's all I'm going to say about the astrology and some of the linkages with events of the past. And now what I want to do is look at this week in terms of the I Ching. So just a reminder that if you don't want your I Ching read, you don't have to have your I Ching read. What I'm saying about the I Ching only applies to those watching this part of the video, the I Ching part of the video. So if you want to stop watching now, that is fine. Okay, so I asked the question, what is the week starting on Monday, August the 19th, going to be like for those watching the I Ching section of this video? And the first hexagram I got was hexagram 50, which is the cauldron. Now, so just a reminder, I'm going to be doing this I Ching reading with 4 sections. The first section is going to be general. Then I'm going to be looking at money, then career, then relationships. So starting from a general perspective, the first hexagram we have, yes, is the cauldron. And this seems to be a hexagram that comes up quite a lot. And the cauldron is all about marshalling our resources. So whatever we have, whatever abilities we have, whatever talents we have, it's about bringing it all together. And that way we can have maximum impact. So maybe we have disparate abilities. We have an ability here, we have an ability there, and it's all over the place, and maybe we're not able to fulfill our potential. And so perhaps the cauldron is asking us to centralize things so that we can pack the maximum punch. Now, the cauldron does have a moving line, and it's the bottom line moves. And so this is kind of quite easy to visualize, because if you've got a cauldron and you've got a moving line at the bottom, that's perhaps a reminder that maybe there's a way to get rid of the garbage. All the garbage sinks to the bottom, perhaps. Or if you want to clear the cauldron, you have to turn it upside down. And so the implication here is that we're trying to get ourselves together this week, but there is a lot of garbage from the past. There's things that we've been doing that maybe have cluttered things up. And so before actually trying to do anything really positive, we're going to have to clear it all out. And the I Ching just regards this as being a very positive thing to do. It's sort of out with the old, in with the new. Once we've cleared the decks, we'll be ready to focus on the challenge in front of us. And this hexagram moves because we've got the bottom line moving, and it moves to possession in great measure. So possession in great measure is a really quite nice hexagram, and it's really telling us that once we've cleared out the garbage, things will start coming our way. The opportunities will start coming our way. And we'll be reminded, of course, that we do have a lot of abilities. And that was the assumption all along, and it's just about bringing them all together. And so once we've perhaps got rid of stuff that we didn't need, and remember with the cauldron, there is always an element of sacrifice, that something has to be given up. Some of the stuff that's been cluttering things up has just got to be got rid of, it's got to be thrown out. So we throw something out, and so the whole system is working, and by throwing something out, we just bring something new in its place, and that really is quite fortunate. So overall, from a general perspective, it looks like being, I would have said, a really useful week. And I suppose you can perhaps see with this full moon at the beginning of a week, square Uranus, that's in a way, it could be quite stressful, but it just reminds us that we just have to see the truth of the matter, see what's cluttering everything up, and then we can clear it all out, and then we'll be ready to we'll be ready to move on and to make the most of what we've got, and we'll just realize, I think, by the end of a week, but we've got an enormous amount. And it's not just in terms of ideas like, our talents, our abilities, our friends. There may also be a financial side to that, possibly, but I'll be talking about that right now, because having looked at this hexagram from a general perspective, I now want to look at it from a perspective of money. And so from a financial perspective, I do think that this week should be pretty useful, because what we can do is, we can sort of look at our financial resources and look at what we've got, what we don't have, look at potential ways of making money. Maybe we've got little bits of money in some account that we've forgotten about, and we can start to just bring things together and maybe rationalize some aspects of our finances. And we shouldn't forget that maybe we have some ability, for example, if we're worried about money. I think money is a concern to everyone. I mean, I've had a sort of argument about this, not an argument, but some people have suggested that money is not important, but I don't know. I do think that money actually is important, certainly from my perspective, in terms of what people are looking for. As an astrologer, money is a major concern that people have. But of course, money may not be of any concern to you, in which case this section of the I Ching, looking at money, may seem irrelevant. But I think that, with this hexagram, the cauldron, we do have a chance to really bring our resources together and our talents together. If we need money, then perhaps there are ways we can get money if we can get ourselves together, if we can bring things together and sort of integrate actually who we are. And there may be something stopping us making money because something is cluttering the system. Something that we've got very used to. Maybe we've been spending money on something that we needn't be spending money on, but something we've got very used to is costing us or is preventing us from making extra money if that's required. And with this hexagram at the bottom, we can clear it out. And a good time, of course, for clearing out if we have any hangers-on, people demanding money, we give people money, but do we really need to give them money? It's just clearing things out. In that sense, that would be very useful. And once we've done that, the hexagram moves to hexagram 14, possession in great measure. So, possession in great measure is pretty good if you're thinking about things from a financial view. If you think, or you're concerned about whether or not you're going to get hold of some money, I would have said the answer is probably yes, provided you handle things in the right way. Because, remember, cauldron is a hexagram that is the beginning, is the first hexagram. And so that we do have to organize things. We need to clear out things which are holding us back. But once we've cleared that blockage, we move to 14. So the money should be available. And it's from a money perspective, 14 is probably the best hexagram in the book. So, by the end of a week, if you handle things in the right way, you should be able to get the money you're looking for. So whatever short term, whatever that financial concern was, there seems to be a way of resolving it by the end of a week. So I think I can end this financial section of the I Ching on a pretty optimistic note there. So turning to career, business, if that's relevant, the first hexagram we get is 50, which is a cauldron, which is, I would have said, a pretty good hexagram. in terms of organizing yourself, I think you'll be very well organized this week. Maybe you'll look at how you've been functioning at work or in your business, and you'll perhaps have recognized that in the past things have not been perfect, and that you have, I don't know, put too much energy into the wrong things. But now you can sort everything out, because the cauldron allows you to just get everything together. And so if you're working, I don't know, in a sort of a situation where you're employed, I think that all your abilities will just click together nicely, and you'll know how to bring them together. You may have two abilities that don't seem to have any connection, but you can bring them together, you can make the connection, and that is going to be very effective. But bottom line moves, there does seem to be something that needs to be cleared out. Now, that may suggest that perhaps you're not working as effectively as you could be working, hence getting rid of something, getting rid of some habit. And so what is that habit that needs to be got rid of? Or maybe, I suppose, if you're doing lots of different jobs, maybe you're doing too much, and you need to reduce yourself. Remember, there is always this element of sacrifice with the cauldron, and so something perhaps has to be reduced or removed, because it's not allowing you to function on all cylinders. So that is a possibility. Now, if any unlikely possibility, any unlikely event that you are running a huge business and you're watching this, but I'm sure you're not watching this, you've got better things to do. But in the unlikely event that this is the case, then I have perhaps a rather disturbing message here. Well, no, not disturbing, I'm just trying to be objective here. But the bottom line moves, and one piece of advice, which is, this was sort of, this is from a perspective of a Chinese warlord advice. So you're probably not a Chinese warlord, but I suppose you'd have to be running a big business to even see yourself as a Chinese warlord or anything like that. But it's suggesting that you need to get rid of people. It's a really cruel message of this bottom line. You have to let people go. I'm being completely objective here. I'm just saying what this really grabbed me. It's about getting rid of people, particularly people at the highest level. So if you're, I don't know, if you're running a what do they call them, a Fortune 500 company, it seems that senior managers are not doing their job. They're not being useful. You need to get rid of them all, because things are changing fast, and people, I suppose, people who have a lot of responsibility, who've been in a company for a long time, may be holding things back, and they need to be got rid of. And the people you keep are the people right at the bottom. So that is, the people who of a lower rank can be kept, but people of the higher rank, they're the ones that need to be got rid of. But that advice is not necessarily going to apply, not really going to apply to anyone watching this, I assume. Though I suppose it may be the case if you run your own business, and it just may be that there are people in your business who seem to know the business quite well, but you may be falling out with them, and perhaps it's, if you want to create change and if you want to address the future, there may be some sort of intermediate group of people who perhaps are no longer serving any useful purpose. And the general picture with that bottom line moving is sort of out with the old. You have to clear out the garbage from the past in order to make space for the new, for new possibilities. Because once the bottom line moves, whatever's going on at work, you don't have to be running a huge company. If you just have a job, whatever it is, once you've cleared out that garbage, whatever it is, you brought everything together, then you can move to the next hexagram, which is possession in great measure. And so from a work perspective, it looks as if, having made the changes that are needed to be made, or perhaps made the decision to make the changes, whatever you feel need to be made, then that allows you to start doing really well, and start to be able to make money, and to put your business on a really secure footing. And it is possession in great measure. That is a great hexagram to have when you've got a question about career and business, because there is the opportunity here to really be successful. And it's not just about money, is it? It's about contacts, it's about reputation, it's about profile, and it's all good because it is possession in great measure. And then we move finally to relationships. And I suppose with relationships, it very much does depend on what kind of relationship we're talking about. I suppose if a relationship is long-standing, then we're talking about a week here. If it's a long-standing relationship, then it does seem that with the cauldron that relationships can be changed and refined, and there may be certain aspects of any relationship that need to change and perhaps need to be got rid of. Certain aspects of a relationship, not necessarily the relationship itself. Perhaps you're in a relationship that has got a bit stale, and this relationship needs to be rejuvenated. And there is the opportunity here. Old ways of relating need to go. They need to be replaced with something else. So if you're in a long-standing relationship, it can be transformed, I think, in quite a progressive, fortunate kind of way. Now, if we're talking about shorter-term relationships, which people come and go, then it may be a time when you actually need to get rid of people. If we're talking about you as a person who relates, who likes people, there are certain people who are just no longer any use to you. They're not helping. They're just clutter. They are holding you up. They're not making you. They're not contributing anything. And so that's why we get this image of we take the cauldron and we turn it upside down, because we're cleaning it. We need to just we may need to make sure the whole thing is in good order. And so as a person who likes to relate, and you want to relate and you want to carry on relating, then getting rid of a few people might be a very good idea. Or maybe if you're in a new relationship, and that new relationship, or I'm not talking about a relationship that's gone on for decades, but perhaps a relationship that's gone on for days or weeks, and you're in a beginning of a relationship, perhaps you need to reconsider it. Is it really working? Maybe not. And if you want to find the right relationship, and you have an idea about what kind of relationship you're looking for, then you get rid of one relationship and perhaps you can find another one. And it's okay. It's just it goes back to this sense: out with the old, in with the new. Things perhaps have to change, and again, it really does very much depend on your situation. But that bottom line, it does move, and it does move to possession in great measure, hexagram number 14. And so that does indicate that if you're able to take those steps, whether it's transforming an existing relationship, getting rid of an old relationship, whatever you decide to do, it's going to be it's going to be something fortunate, which is going to just make things a whole lot easier for yourself. And then you're going to feel possession in great measure. Then you're going to value the people that are left. I don't know whether we're really talking about a purge, but you will value what you've got left. You will value the people in your life. And even sort of by distancing yourself from some of your friends, some people you know, you'll value more the people who are left. And so that might be one aspect of it. And of course, when we're dealing with the cauldron, which was a previous hexagram, it is about sacrifice. Some of your friendships have basically are not really helping, and if you want to really have good relationships, some relationships may just have to go, and that just might be the way it is. But in the end, you will definitely be able to benefit from the situation, and I think you're going to feel very comfortable by the end of a week that you've made the right choices in terms of your various relationships. And that's it. That's all I'm going to say. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did enjoy this video, I'd be very grateful if you were to like it. And if you're not subscribed, I'd be super grateful if you were to subscribe. And if you want to buy me a coffee, there is a link in the description. So thank you very much for listening, and I will talk to you again very soon.